Welcome to Business Wit's Better Business Results. My name's John Witt, and I'm your host. Today our guest is Katie Burton, and Katie is the Senior Regional Sales Manager for Payday Workforce Solutions. Katie, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So Katie, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about what you do and why, but I'll share a little backdrop in the sense that we met each other about 4 years ago, and you were running a consulting business called Sales for Pros.
Correct, yep.
And we had the chance to get together, and I frankly thought you really knew what the heck you were talking about. You didn't get to stay with that, though.
No, life happens, right? I had a couple of children, so I've always I was doing that on the side in tandem with what I've always done, which is my professional career in payroll sales. So I've been a professional payroll salesperson for about 17 years. And that industry in sales, you ask, why is it that I do what I do? I just love meeting new people. I love helping them solve some problems and add better efficiencies into their business and make sure that they're in compliance so that they can run an effective business and not go out of business.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal.
Absolutely. So something that I'm able to do and that fulfills that need for me is in the payroll sales arena. The sales coaching that I kind of branched off was just because of my love of sales, and in my tenure seeing so many folks kind of come out of college and get their feet wet in sales and see all of the kind of hurdles that they had to jump and some of their stumbling blocks. In my career, I've been able to develop a really good process to ramp up quickly and get things started so that I can start seeing some money coming in and see some of those sales coming in. So I wanted to put that model together and try to support and give back to some of those younger folks who were trying to get into the sales arena.
Well, you experienced it, and now you're able to help others. And I think that at the core, it's all about helping others. I mean, you take your skill sets and your knowledge and your experience, and you're helping whether they're business owners with their payroll services or young sales professionals that are just kind of getting started. Because it's a tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
Sales is not the easiest profession in the world. If it was, everybody would do it.
Yeah, I think everybody does it in a way. They just don't realize it. Whether you own a business or you are, doing a food channel or whatever it is, especially in today's day and age with all of the direct marketing people do.
Sure.
In a way, everybody is in sales. But when you put your uniform on every day with the word sales on the back of it and people who you meet every day know that that is your profession, you have to have some thick skin because you're going to get mixed results when you're out there in the world and how people treat you as an individual just because your title is a sales professional.
Yeah, well, I think if you're a professional salesperson and occasionally doing some sales, like persuading somebody, and I call it persuasion is a little bit like sales, persuading somebody that they should do X or they should do Y. When you have a professional sales title, that's really, I think, where the challenge comes. And when you're in a commission-only type space, that's a big challenge, right? You have to be comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
So, well, tell me about who most benefits from your products and services.
Okay. Well, in the sales that I do, payroll sales, the people that really benefit are those companies that have employees, right? So they could have one employee, 10, 15, 20, thousands of employees. What I sell today in the human capital management space is a software solution that supports and really highlights those companies that have like 50 or more employees.
50 or more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's really going to give them those modern technology tools to support them in their business.
Yeah, and I would suspect that there's a point where maybe they get so big that they've got system services and people similar to you on their team, so they don't need to outsource that thing.
Correct.
So there's that space there, but it's 50 plus.
Yeah,
in
I
that
would
area.
say in the 50 to maybe 2,000. That's really where what I have to offer really will help assist.
Really
them and
sings.
help them shine.
All right. So talk about the three big problems that you solve.
Yep. The main thing, the reason people need somebody like me and my service is for compliance.
Yeah.
In today's day and age, we've got the IRS, we've got all these health regulations. We need to make sure that as a business owner, their biggest expense is their labor. So they need to make sure that that piece of the business is taken care of, and the solution that a payroll company provides is they will pay all the taxes, they will take the liability off of the head of the employer so that if there's ever a missed payment, a late payment, a penalty, the payroll service because they're contracted for that work, have to back up and take care of any of those issues that may come into play. And then, of course, now we've got the Affordable Care Act. So with those companies that have over 50 full-time employees, they have extra reporting that they have to do, and extra compliance, and extra monitoring throughout the year. Our software will help complete that for them so that they are in compliance and they know that they're not going to have someone from the IRS knocking on their door, providing them a penalty, or putting them in a situation that may even close their doors.
Yeah, IRS knocking on your door, that's just not a very exciting thing.
No.
So you do some things from a productivity standpoint too.
Absolutely. In the space, depending on the size of the client, there are multiple different people, or maybe even a single individual who is working in that payroll and HR position at the company. So in today's day and age, it's really important that employees have information right away. Maybe they're out going to buy a house or going to buy a car and they need their previous pay information. If they do not have the technology that we provide, they're going to go back to that HR department and make requests of information. So if they could input some technology to support the HR department to make them a little bit more efficient and more effective, it really will help the productivity of the department, of the company, and it also helps the employees because now they're empowered to have their information, they're happier, and that's a big win that our system can provide.
Yeah, they have a lot more control in that particular case. And clearly, I mean, if you have to field questions from your employees all the time, that's going to take a lot of energy and hours.
And depending on the company, you may have a one-person department, you may have a three-person department, you may have a 10-person department. And obviously with more resources, more things can be accomplished, but when you are maybe at that 50 to 100 size employee company, your resources are limited. And that doesn't mean the workload is limited, it just means the resources are limited. So our system can help make sure that that individual is supported and make sure that all of the workload gets handled.
Right, right. And the one I really think where your personal skills shine is in this fear of change, right? Because technology is scary.
Yeah.
By the way, it's changing so fast every time I turn around.
Yeah, we see it every day, right? You may have mastered your iPhone only for it to be upgraded and your buttons are in different spots, right? So in today's day and age, you have to learn to move with the times and the technology. And I think one of the big things that happen in our space is the growth of technology has expanded over the last 10 years. I mean, it used to be that everyone got paper checks and, things were handled in a very manual way. Fast forward in the last 10 years and so much is automated from the way that someone can onboard themselves and fill out their new hire paperwork all the way to getting paid. And with that, the administrative person has to learn how to manage all of the different change components that come within their job. And I'd say the one thing that people fear is, like what you said, the fear of change, learning a new process,
It's hard,
learning a
and
new
just
system.
mistakes get made. And every time you're learning something new, that's the opportunity to make more mistakes.
Yep, absolutely.
So in terms of the way you solve these problems, from a compliance standpoint, you've got some software. You said something about a modern office. This is how you improve productivity. Do you talk a little bit more about that?
Yep, like the modern workplace.
The modern workplace.
Yep.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that.
So modern workplace kind of references, having the tools in place in your company to make you almost look like, a Fortune 500 organization when maybe you only have 50 people in your machine shop. Because today we've got millennials that are coming into the workforce, and we all know that technology is key. They grew up with technology at their fingertips. I don't think they even have blackboards in most schools anymore, right? They've got whiteboards that
I
are
hadn't
all
thought of that.
automated.
Okay.
They're learning on tablets. They're bringing laptops to the classroom. So if you take that type of individual and you're trying to put them into your new company, and on day one you hand them a stack of papers, they're probably going to look at you and go, "What is this?" Right? So kind of that modern technology, the system that we provide from kind of hire to retire, automates the process for both the administrative person within the organization, but also forward-facing to the employee, where they can now get a link delivered to them and they can complete all their new hire paperwork even in advance of coming in on their first day. You know, if they want to make a change to their direct deposit, they're empowered to do so via their mobile app. They want to request time off for vacation. Again, they can go to their mobile app. They could even punch in and out via their mobile app for timekeeping purposes. So it really gives them that look and feel of that new age, which the nice thing is our company has made it affordable to provide that level of technology even with a smaller employee count.
Well, you know, you have the ability to leverage across multiple clients, right? Whereas if as an individual person, if I were to try to build that, it'd be very, very expensive.
Yep.
You can leverage it across more people and you know, spread those costs or allocate those costs accordingly a lot more effectively. And we don't, this millennial thing, we don't have a choice, right? The baby boomers are going to retire, and your hiring pool is this thing called millennials. And then it'll be after that. So as much as you like or dislike or don't want to do that, you don't, it's not, you know, it's not a choice, right? You want to stay in business, you need people to work for you, you have to do those things.
Yep.
So fear of change, right? So this is more along those lines. Talk about how you help address fear of change.
I think personally it's a little unique to me that I've been in the industry for as long as I have. It's a little rare that someone is in it as over a 15-year period. It's almost been 17 years for me. So I have been in the industry back when more manual processes existed, and now that the technology is in place, I've learned and, you know, grown myself as a professional to understand the ways in which technology can help advance an organization. So when I go in and meet with someone who is in more of a manual space today, I can effectively communicate to them exactly what things we can put in place to help advance their organization. But I can also help the administrative user that's actually going to use the back end of the system in understanding what steps we can take very gradually, because fear
You
of change
understand
is
the
a
process.
big thing, right?
Yeah,
I
you can
help
guide them through the process.
Yeah, with the process in transitioning to an automated environment and what that means for them. And the big thing for people is control, right? I know how to do it. I don't like what I'm doing, but I know how to do it, and I don't want
And I can count on those results.
to alter it, right? But in reality today, because of, you know, compliance and all these things,
You don't have a choice.
it's dangerous to keep it manual, right? One, you know, office fire and poof, all of your records are gone, and that is a big issue. When you have resources like the cloud and all this data backup in storage, you need to use it to make sure that you are, again, in compliance and that your organization is got a better insurance policy.
Sure. Well, you know, one of the things I like is because you have this fairly long history in this business. The details, the A, the B, the C, the D, you've got those down as like the back of your hand, and you can actually focus more on the consultative side,
Right.
where you're really helping them solve business problems, more so than, you know, which button to push when.
Right.
Right. That you know, and I think that is a really a testament to helping them overcome that fear of change. So 17 years been doing this thing. Tell me, what's your biggest success story?
That's a good question, because I think it's a little more unique in that where I am in my life today. Not only have I been in the payroll industry sales for 17 years, but in the last 5 years, I was married, and then I quickly formed our little family. So I have a 4-year-old.
I know how quickly
a
this was because we
2-year-old.
were talking every time there's a new baby.
That's right. So I have a 4-year-old, one that turned 2 last weekend.
Oh yeah.
And then I have an 11-month-old. So I think my biggest success story that I could think of right now is finding that balance between work and personal, which is difficult when you're in sales. And especially, again, in the world we live in today, where people want a quick response. You know, I go out and meet somebody and they want me to respond to them immediately, provide a quote, you know, overnight. So I very easily could fall into the trap of being on my computer all hours of all days, you know, late into the night. But I've really had to learn to kind of unplug and spend a little bit of time with my family and learn how to use my own tools with Modern Workplace to get me to that point to have that family time. But my biggest success is not only finding success in my job and ramping up quickly and finding a way to get sales very quickly, but also in, you know, spending time with my family and having a very holistic life.
Yeah, well, learning how to compartmentalize.
Mm-hmm.
I have to have time for my family. I have to work. I have to do certain things. I've got to, and in sales, you have a ton of freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Tracy, I love this saying. He says, sales is the hardest high-paying job and the easiest low-paying job in the world.
Yep.
And so if you're going to be good, you're going to be successful, you want to generate the returns that you're looking for, you're going to have to get after it. And learning how to balance that out with the family. And again, this is just the way the world's going today. We don't have, it's not like you have a lot of choices, right?
No.
I mean, I don't know. Could you decide not to work? I mean, whether it's a revenue thing, but I mean, there's a little bit of DNA going on here too, where you like doing this stuff.
Right. Well, I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I have 1,000 friends who are mothers, and they stay home. And obviously, I was home on maternity leave.
Well, you had to for a while,
multiple
yeah.
times,
Yeah.
right? And that is probably the hardest job, having bosses that are 1-year-old that never stop, right?
And they
I mean,
can't communicate very well.
And they're
Yeah.
not 8 to 5; they're 24/7, and it is an amazing experience. For me personally, I get a lot of my own personal confidence and my own personal kind of identity through work, and being with my clients and providing and
Solving
being able
problems
to share
and-
the expertise that I've learned, and that's big for me. So I've chosen to work outside the home, but then I still have my little brood to attend to
Mhm.
in the mornings and in the evenings. And luckily, like you said, being in sales, I have a flexible schedule, so it's afforded me time to be there, for first day of preschool and all the things that you need to do. So I'm very, very lucky in that aspect.
Well, and 17 years of experience learning how to do that. That didn't hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say that due to the tenure that I carry, I can do things very quickly and efficiently. And, clients call, they have questions, I'm able to answer them probably faster than an average person, just because I've had experience probably with what they're asking me about. So that
right.
really
So
helps.
it might take you a minute. It might take somebody else 10 or 15. Well, that leads me to the next question then. So what are the surprise benefits that your customers get from working with you?
Right. So I would say the one thing that probably doesn't sound like it should be a surprise, but it is service. So
Well, it's only a surprise if you explain to me what kind of service you're talking about.
okay, so in today's world, we all know technology is king, but more often than not, I'm finding that companies are kind of replacing technology with service. So people are getting accustomed to poor service. They're getting accustomed to a 1-800 number and being on hold.
Oh my God! Just don't
Forever.
mention Verizon or Bank of America to me.
Right. Let me get you this case number, or we're going to open a special IT ticket for you, and call us back, and we'll tell you the status of it down the road.
And
right?
it all falls on my shoulders to
Right.
have to do that, and I got busy too.
Right. So in payroll, the one thing that you cannot have a lag for responsiveness is someone's paycheck,
No,
because
bad idea.
where it used to be a paper check that I may run to the bank in cash, now it's an automated check that hits my bank account, and it needs to hit my bank account on Friday at 12 a.m. because at Friday at 2 p.m. my mortgage payment gets taken
Pulled out,
and
yeah.
goes out the other way. So if step 1 doesn't happen, step 2 fails, which personally is a lot of stress that an employee could face and has a lot of ramifications for everyone's personal life, not just their work life. So when it comes to service in our industry, number one with me, because they've got me and I've been doing this for so long, everyone has my cell phone number. I am a very responsive individual, so they do get that level of service that they're probably unaccustomed to in today's day and age.
Little white glove.
And then also the company that I work for. I work at Payday, as you mentioned, and we have a regional office. We're in Orange, in Orange County, and we have 35 people that sit there that are on the phones, ready and waiting. We have a local phone number. You've got a email address, and you can get in touch with someone immediately, which gives all those phone calls that are not the 411 but the 911, like help me, I need help right away.
I need it right now.
They have that
I
support.
have 1 hour to solve this problem.
Right.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that, they probably think, oh yeah, right. And then when they get to experience it, they are just so thankful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah. So I would say everybody says they have good service, but until you explain to me what your service is, it doesn't there's nothing that makes any sense there.
And I think it is also that I understand from being in the industry for so long the changes that have occurred and why it's important. You know, does every company or person know why it's important that we respond immediately? Maybe not. If they're, like you said, if they're just telling me what buttons to push and not the why behind it, you're not really going to solve the problem the best way.
Not in the long run, you know, maybe right that second, but it's going to pop up again.
Yep.
So that's awesome. I really love, thank you, because I really enjoy good service.
Yeah.
Good service is actually special now. It's not that idea of accepting bad service. I don't accept it. I hate it. Right.
Well, we're conditioned to it.
No, I yell at things. I throw things. So tips. Give me 3 tips for the classic business owner or classic customer.
For the customer that I have?
Either the customer you have or sales tips.
Okay.
Sales pro. You know, because of again, the reason why we got engaged in the first place, not that kind of engaged.
Yes.
But we got engaged is because you're a professional salesperson.
Yeah, I'll go down the sales road.
Okay.
So tips for sales. Number 1, I would say understand that sales is a roller coaster. I think that's one thing a lot of people, they think about sales and they think about the freedom that you mentioned and potentially a great paycheck if they make a ton of sales, and all of that is true. You can have a lot of freedom. But there's also a huge roller coaster that you ride with sales. You could have some fantastic success, and even the best salespeople in the world can see some, disappointment.
Some tough months.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to realize that it's a marathon, not a sprint, and that you have to kind of weather the storm and be okay with riding the roller coaster. So I'm pretty fortunate in that my husband is also in sales. So anytime I come home and say, oh my gosh, this happened today, or oh, this is having a bad month, I am quickly reminded that, hey, don't worry, that's
life.
This is the game we play, and we will be seeing success in the future. That's okay.
Right.
So I think that's the biggest one.
So I will make one comment here is that you got to build a reserve, right? Because you don't get to decide when a good month comes along or a bad month comes along. You just have to accept it and be happy and work your way through the troughs, so to speak. As long as you got a reserve, and say it's a 6-month reserve or whatever that happens to be, then you can get through. You can weather the downturns and go on. But if you go out and spend all your money and you're depending on that check next week, oh, that's super stressful.
Yeah. And I always say that activity, right? Everybody knows in sales, activity is king.
Mm-hmm.
So if I ever am finding that little downturn, which will happen, whether it was due to my own personal, activity results, or maybe it was circumstantial due to the time of year, maybe clients were on vacation, or I couldn't get to see as many people during a period of the year, I'm going to see a result 3 months out. So what I did today, I will see the net effect of that in 3 months.
Right.
So if I'm riding kind of my valley and not my peak, I can look back at 3 months prior and say, what happened during that time? Oh yeah, that was Labor Day when, no one was around. Everyone was finishing up their summer vacations and I couldn't get a hold of everyone. That makes sense now that
That's why today, because it really was something 3 months previously. All right, that's a good tip, the roller coaster. What else?
Another tip that I've got is making sure that you build a good referral group. Have a good referral prospecting group of individuals around you. I found that to be very, very valuable in my career. Everyone loves cold calling and loves telemarketing. It's their favorite
They
thing.
just love that, don't they? Yeah. Everybody
hands
just can't wait to
down,
do that.
That's what you want to do all day when you're selling.
Yeah.
But outside of that, the other best way to get introduced to someone is a warm referral, right?
Yeah.
You've got to kind of identify those people that surround your industry. So pick 4 or 5 different, like-minded professions, and then go out and interview some folks. Introduce yourself to them. Let them know that you're there to support them in their business and make sure that it's a non-competitive, profession.
Well, which allows you to give.
Right, exactly. It allows, if you walk into it thinking, okay, what can I get from this person? You're putting yourself at a disadvantage. For me, the big bonus is that I am going to have this network of individuals that I can also bring to my client. So if I do all the hard work of uncovering and finding somebody, and my client says, hey, by the way, I need a health
Yeah.
insurance provider,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And my health insurance provider is John. I can bring John in and support him in his business, but also he's providing the similar level of service that I provide, right? I'm going to work with people that are like me, so they're going to provide similar service model.
Professionalism, talent, skill.
Right, and he's also going to protect me, because if my client was with a different health insurance broker that preferred a different, payroll provider, that could put my business at risk as well. So it kind of protects me, it builds somebody else, and it provides the client and gives the client the feeling that I am their single source of resource for any other need that they may have.
Well,
in
you're
their
adding a
business.
lot more value than just your products and
Right.
services.
And-
So you're taking care of your client
Yep.
in an extended manner.
And then over time, they always say, what, giver's gain, right? You're
Oh,
going to
yeah.
get back.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? You're going to get back what you put out. So will it come back to me and I'll get a phone call from John and says, hey, Katie, by the way, I have somebody that wants to talk to you? Of course I will. And that is just one less telemarketing call that I might have to make that week.
So we're going to talk a little bit more about how to build a referral network after we get done with your next tip on sales, which I think said something about no.
Oh, yeah. Filling up your no quota.
The
right?
no quota, yeah, filling up the no quota.
Yeah, so many salespeople are very, very concerned and don't like the word no. When in reality, I kind of have turned it around to welcome the no. Mathematically, it's been proven that so many no's have to occur in order to result in a yes. So if you know that and you're out there doing your telemarketing, cold calling, or whatever it may be, and you accept that you have to fulfill your no quota, then you're going to accept every no more positively, because you know that behind it or closely following it, you will end up getting that yes.
So with the Focal Point organization, I go to a conference every year, and Brian Tracy speaks. And one of the first couple of years, he told a story about going for no. He said, go for no. Go for no. Count your no's and reward yourself when you get 10 or 20 or 100. And what you'll find out is that no gets harder and harder to accomplish, because you get better and better at dealing with things, and you get closer and closer to yeses. And so literally, we all work for rewards to some degree. And so there's a reward for 10 no's or 20 or whatever the number turns out to be, so that you know that you're kind of still going out there and ringing the bell.
Yep.
Yeah, so go for no. It's a very similar concept.
And you're going to get more no's in like telemarketing. It's when you get in front of a prospect that hopefully you've polished your entire process enough that the no's will peter away as you become more professional and you become more tenured. But even at 17 years of experience, I get a ton of no's on the
Oh
phone.
yeah, it's just part of
You
part
know?
of the business. It's part of baseball, same way, right? Get 3 out of 10 hits, you're an all-star and make millions of dollars. It's a 3 out of 10. Sales, maybe 3 out of 10 is generally pretty good. 2 out of 10 is pretty nice. But the reality is that it's never 5 out of 10. It's never 8 out of 10. It's just not the way that business works. So in your career, what are your 3 biggest lessons learned?
I'd say the first kind of tails into the no, right? Sometimes the no is not now. It's not never. It's just not
Right.
now. So maybe it's the industry that I'm in. Maybe it's the fact that people that look at a payroll service generally do so on an annual basis or every other year. But I've found that if I talk to someone and they decide not to, come my way this year, that it's a very good possibility in a few years I will be back in front of that prospect again. So to make sure that I close our relationship on a very positive note, that I, make sure that everything that I want to communicate to them comes across in a positive manner, and that I ask for permission to continue to follow up with them in case they don't have the loving, wonderful experience that they had hoped
That they had hoped for?
that they would get with whomever they chose.
Yeah.
So,
And life changes. It just does. You don't know. So keeping those relationships open. And I like that comment. No is sometimes it's just not now. Not today. I'm not ready.
right.
And not everybody's ready to buy from you today. Yeah. All right. So what else?
Communication. I think communication is key.
I use king, but yeah, same concept.
king.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Communication is king.
yeah, that
Yeah.
is true. But as a salesperson, you're kind of in the middle, right? You're in the middle between your client, because you're the first person that gets to understand their pain and what it is they need, and you're talking to them and providing solutions. And then once they've said, okay, this sounds great, let's do it, you then have to communicate with your own company to make sure that the needs and wants of the client are reflective in the service or the product that your company is going to build. And I've noticed that that process and that communication model, I have been able to develop that part of my business to make sure that, you know, client and the actual company have the same understanding. I've been on client calls where I'm sitting there and my client is saying one thing and my implementation person is hearing another, and if I weren't there to kind of mediate and say, oh, no, this is what
So
they
you are
need.
the great interpreter.
Right, exactly.
Because they speak different languages.
Yep, and to take the time to do it, right? Because so many salespeople, it's a hunting job. So, great, I closed one, let's go find another one. But to stop and say, wait a minute, let me sit in on those calls to make sure implementation goes off on the right foot, that the service people understand, you know, listen, my prospect, he never works on Friday, so don't even call him that day. You know, whatever it is, whatever nuance that I have picked up in the sales process, to pass that on effectively, to communicate, to give, you know, timelines, to be a real, you know, high touch person when it comes to communication. To me, I think that is one of the biggest things that can set a salesperson apart. I've heard recently, you know, in some of my competitive situations, where competitors didn't even follow up, just went on a presentation, and then the service, they never heard back, didn't even get a proposal.
It's so funny because it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Rarely is one touch a sale, you know, but it's when you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that consistency that generates it. They say on average that, you know, it's a 1.8 touches and people go away.
Right.
And so if you can do it 3 or 4 times, and the people that don't show up, that don't return phone, this is that service thing again. You're
Right.
going to send me off the deep edge
Yeah.
there. But okay, so communication and being that interpreter and
Yep.
being there, that's part of your white glove service too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so what was the third thing?
Talking about follow-up, right, and talking a little bit about what it means. Having a balance between follow-up and being patient. So, again, it's very, very easy to be the quickest, the fastest, the most responsive, which 9 times out of 10 I've found wins me business.
That's a good strategy.
Right? But each client may dictate a different process, and to have the wherewithal to identify that and then adjust my process to be more patient and apply that to the certain scenario, I think is definitely a tip that people should try to look at. Because if I'm dealing with someone that has 1,000 employees, they may take longer
It'd be a
than
long
2
cycle.
months. It may take a year to make a decision. And if I hurry up and give them the answers to all their questions immediately, to give them a price proposal and everything within the first month, I don't have a reason to call them again. I'm just waiting for a yes or a no. And to kind of temper that a little bit and kind of space things out and find myself a reason to keep a high touch with the client over a period of time will result in a better result for me for those larger deals.
Yeah, so it's kind of a balance between patience and urgency.
Yep.
And this is a little bit of an art form. I mean, it's not really a science like if X, then Y.
Mm-hmm.
This is, you've learned how to kind of space this out and work effectively.
Yeah.
So, wow, really, thank you for those tips. That's really, really helpful. I'm looking forward to being able to share your information with the network, with our network. That's
Yeah.
exciting. So I want to take a minute now and go back to your referral network idea, because this is really important. It's really valuable in so many different ways, right? So, and you have a process, and I know you've told me that you've kind of had to start a couple different times. You were in Michigan, you came out here, you had to start all over again, and you've built a process that's been pretty effective. So, if you don't mind, share a little bit about that process, and I'm certain that that involves building your referral network at the
Yeah.
same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. I started my career in Michigan. That's where I'm from. And then when I moved to California, I found landed right there up in LA. So I sold in the LA market. Then I met my husband, who's in Orange County. So I moved down to Orange County. went into management a little bit, and then I switched to a couple different payroll companies. So I've probably started over 4 or 5 different times. And each time I'm able to kind of apply my process to ramp up my business quickly. So in sales, it's always that ramp up, right? How many months is it going to take
Before you start turning the wheels.
before I could produce some sales, make some commissions, get back on my feet, if you will. So my process, especially when it comes to referrals, is first of all I have to identify, who are the folks that would be easy for me to pass business to, but also in what arena. So I'm in the financial sector. So obviously when you're talking about payroll, CPAs, financial advisors, things that affect payroll or get deducted from a paycheck like insurance and things like that, those are the things I'm talking about every day. And if there are folks out there that are selling those systems, those are people that I could maybe bring in and be an asset for my client. So the first thing is you kind of have to identify your sphere of influence, the people that
connect,
you could work with you. Yeah.
Uh-huh. How do you now as you identify them? Is the next step trying to figure out which? Because it's an industry you identify, not necessarily a person. But then you have to just say what person. How do
Or
you do
people,
that?
right?
How do you what person or people do I really want to work with?
Right. So you've got to go meet them. So I sometimes go to Google and do a search based on an area, and like put in health insurance in Newport Beach, California, right? And it pops up all the people, Or LinkedIn is such a powerful tool, and see who I'm connected with today, or friends of mine that might be having good connections. And then you physically have to go out and meet them. Sit down, grab coffee, grab lunch. And that first meeting is not, hey, this is everything I do, and hey, this is everything you do, but it's really getting to know the person. Because like I said, if I'm bringing someone in to support my client and they like me and my style, then I want my partner to reflect a similar type of experience.
True.
So if I follow up really well and I make sure that, I'm always returning phone calls and doing, my process, I want that process for my partner to be similar. So understanding who they are, what they do, but also getting to know them a little bit on a personal level is very important, because you want to work with people that you like, just like our clients do. You like people, they trust you.
They have to deliver, or else it's going to be a mark against you.
Right.
So you have to vet them strongly.
And I don't want to do any more work, right? I don't want to pass a referral and then have a client call me angry, and that's another phone call that I'm fielding when I'm trying to do something else.
Right.
So
you need the equivalent super professional.
Yeah.
And I think two things have to happen, and I see this all the time, is that people don't do that vetting. And so then something goes sideways, and then they say, I don't like that, and they don't want to do it anymore. So now all of a sudden their referral network stops growing.
Right.
In fact, maybe it reduces, maybe it gets a little smaller, which is the opposite of what you really want to have happen. You can't stop, you can't quit. You have to learn from that and go on to the next thing.
And part of the vetting too is understanding a little bit deeper, not just, okay, you sell insurance, right? And okay, what does that mean? But where are you in your career? Are you looking to grow your business? Are you happy with the business that you have, so you're not wanting, like if I have a ton of referrals to give, I want to make sure you want them, Or guess what? If you only like to work with a certain industry, restaurants, I don't want to give you a manufacturing company, right? So that's why I'm saying sometimes you may have more than one referral source, because it may dictate that you have different ones based on industry.
Yeah, so you could have multiple healthcare providers that would work and support you, but because they're different. And I look at the way different people are too. So I got a client who's really demanding, right? Now, Susie over here is a very nice person, but she doesn't deal with demanding people very well. So I'm not going to hook those two people up.
Yep.
Right? I need another guy or another woman that can step into that role and be comfortable.
Right.
Whereas if I've got another client over here who's kind of on the soft and really wants the collaboration and stuff, maybe Susie's just the right person. But I need a variety of different resources to make that happen. And at the end of the day, every one of those resources, for me, this is my model, has to have the right values. If they have the right values, if they match with my values, integrity being super high on the list, maybe like number one, if they match, right, if their passion, if their excellence and everything else matches mine, then they've kind of crossed one of those vetting bridges.
Right.
But do you then also call any of their clients? You get references or anything like that to see how well they do?
Yeah, I normally try to see if we have mutual clients.
Okay.
Because sometimes
And then you
that
find out.
happens,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I always want to stay in front of these folks because I think that's the other thing is people make a relationship, they have lunch, and then they don't see one another for 6 months, and
That's
they
not much of a
wonder
relationship, is it?
why it doesn't work,
Yeah.
right? Well, wait, that was the guy I had. In case something comes up, I'm gonna, give you a call. But it's work. It's a relationship, like you said. So whether it is for me, I kind of put together an email marketing that I make sure it's on my calendar once a month. I'm touching.
You're
and
getting
saying,
out.
Hey, by the way, this is what's going on. I have some people that we have a planned 15-minute phone call just to say, hey, how did your month go? Does anything pop up? Because it jogs my memory sometimes that, oh, shoot, I had a conversation and you would be a perfect fit for this. I'm glad you're on the phone with me. So it's almost like, it's not absence makes the heart grow fonder when it comes to referrals.
No, not
right?
at all.
You have
No,
to
you have
be
to stay
in
in
front
touch.
of somebody. And oftentimes I get a referral or can give one when I see somebody. The light bulb goes on because, again, we're moving 100 miles
Oh, yeah.
an hour.
Yeah,
we're
you need
getting,
something to...
We're getting emails and phone calls, and everyone needs to be responded to immediately. That I may have thought of that referral, and then 5 minutes later, I've got 3 other things coming up. So you have to be in front of someone. So I do kind of an email marketing thing. I do phone calls, and then I also will schedule lunches with people and try to do that on a monthly or bi-monthly basis. Obviously, if you grow your referral source group, that's taking more time away from prospecting and filling, your activity standards. But it's also in
So it's
the
a
long
long-term
run,
return.
it's so worth it to build those folks because anything could happen. I moved, right? What happened to all the people that I had in Michigan? They lost me. I went to California, right? So you constantly have to be working this, People change professions. I've had fabulous referral sources that no longer do that anymore,
Yeah.
right? So you always have to kind of have your finger on the pulse of that profession and that group and keep yourself open to good relationships.
Now, are you tracking the referrals you're getting from your referral network?
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have metrics that tell you what kind of your best practices are, things that it's kind of on track, or I need to go do a little work, or
I do, and there are systems out there to help track those things. You can use a CRM system, Salesforce, what have you. In our industry, everything seems to be tracked, and activity seems to be pretty mapped out. I, as an individual, and having been a manager for a period of time, can do that without direction. I do that
Yeah.
on my own.
well, you know the value.
Right, exactly.
Once you know the value, it's not hard to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't see a referral source meeting as less important than a client meeting. I see it as equally important because I'm going to be potentially finding out more about more solutions I can provide to clients, or I'm going to be solidifying a relationship that may result in referrals in the future.
So the other thing I like to do, and I've learned this from a couple different places, but with the referral sources, I almost look at almost as a little mini mastermind. Right? There's a couple, maybe you bring the third person in there because you're still not competing, but you're all working at trying to help each other become more successful and achieve better results. And then do you ever set goals for what you want to deliver and or receive from your referral partners?
Absolutely. That's depending on the relationship. You've got to progress the relationship to that point. And once the relationship is there and you're talking more about, hey, this is what I'm trying to do and this is what you're trying to do, let's see if we can, stick to a better program. Anytime you get the relationship to that point where you're setting goals, you know that there's going to be a very fruitful result. But also to your point with kind of keeping in front of folks and connecting people, I've also found that if you're always thinking about your partner, right, the person that may do health insurance, I always ask the other question, which maybe people don't ask, who else do you need to network with? Because maybe I network with financial advisors and insurance agents, but they can network with one another. And if they haven't thought of that, and I can sit them both down together and be that kind of, mediary
Connector.
to connect the two of them, and they develop a good relationship, they're going to both thank me for that. So I've done that a lot too, where I'm trying to connect my resources with one another to help build their businesses as well. And that's very powerful.
Well, and again, helping, connecting, helping. All right, so I'm a new salesperson, and you're going to help me get started with this thing. How often, how much time should I spend? I'm going to have to go hunting. I have to go out and meet people. I have to go try to get opportunities. But I need to start my referral network too. How do I decide how much time to spend?
I would say when you're new, obviously you've got a lot of responsibilities.
You've got a lot of stuff to do.
Training and learning your product and learning the process. Like what happens when you actually sell something? How do you get it in the system? And how do you check all your boxes and do your paperwork? So there's a lot with a new person. But I would say at least 30% of your time needs to be afforded to building that network when you start, because you have a lot of ground to cover. You've got to identify your sphere of influence. Then you have to go out and identify who is within that sphere and sit down and meet with them and have coffee. And then once you have this group, then you put into place your reoccurring events, your coffees and your meetings and your emails, and you start building the relationship. But the first part, I'd say in your first 90 days, you spend 30%, and then it kind of maybe 40% and a little bit more and more. Obviously, you've got to be mindful that you can't go out to a referral source if you don't know your product, right? You have to know what it is you're doing and be fully trained to be able to go out and have, confidence to provide value so that they know that you are someone that you can support them if they're going to refer you into their client.
So about 30% when we get started, and at some point, especially when it starts to provide some returns, then it's easy to spend even a little bit more time.
And you may even find that you're spending time that you've never even thought. I mean, I go to appointments today with the people that referred me. So if they refer me to a client, it's often that we both go on the appointment together. And that's just another meeting, So I spend a lot of time with the referral channel that I've built, because we like one another, we can support one another, and they're looking to be in front of their clients just as much. So if by bringing me in that gets them another meeting, then fine, we'll go together.
So as we build this network, is there some point, you're in a position where hunting sort of never stops. You're not in the residuals business, right, where you've got an insurance package that pays you. So that's just not what you decided to get into.
Yeah, 17 years ago, I did not choose that path.
You didn't choose that. So
that's okay. I like to hunt.
Well, no, but that's part of it, is you like going out and meeting with people and talking to new people and helping new people. And, that's just, one of the things that works well for you.
Right.
When you're going down that path, how are you transitioning from the hunt to the referral partner? How does that work? How do you make that work?
Well, it just depends on where I am within my month or my year or my day. If I am 100%, cold calling, that's probably an individual sport where I'm all doing that on my own behind closed doors. An individual sport,
right? Yes.
Going into the referral channel, it's more of a team sport where I'm, with a group of people, and whether it be a networking event through a chamber of commerce or a local organization or a nonprofit affiliation, whatever it may be, it's more of collectively how can we all support one another and being strategic too. It's very difficult for me to sit with you and say, who could you think of that could use my service? And if I ask you that, you're going to go, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
it's a big laundry list,
right.
And I want more.
Right. But if we sit together and we can strategize with one another and say, hey, guess what? This past month, I was able to help a restaurant and a roofing company and a nursing home facility. You, of course, are going to think what? Restaurant, construction, nursing home. You're going to think of these things, and that may make you think, oh, well, I've got those types of clients, and I didn't even know that would be a good business for you. And by the way, I specialize in this in restaurants. We should work together in the restaurant industry. So it's about having those deeper level conversations and being more strategic in the referral area than being individual and just calling a company and saying, hey, by the way, it's time for you to review your technology in this area of your business. You ready for me to come in and show you what I've got? you know,
Yeah.
so it's a different thing.
Well, I work with business owners and some pretty successful ones. They may be running a 10 or a 20 or $30 million a year business. The reality is that they probably got somebody doing payroll for them already. And I've had people ask me if I would recommend or turn them loose, and I'm not comfortable because I don't know enough about who they are to overcome the question that I know I'm going to get from my client. Was like, why should I do that? I have a guy.
Right.
Right? Well, now if he's unhappy, then it's going to be clear. It's very obvious. But to be honest with you, if you're running a $30 million business and you're not happy with your service, you're probably doing something about it.
Right.
You're not waiting for John to come in and say, hey, you need to. And if you are, then you really need me.
Right.
Then you really need me. But I want to go in and I'm going to say, hey, listen, I know you got a service. I know you got a payroll service. But you really need to have a conversation with Katie. This is a different kind of conversation.
Right.
It's not going to be just about payroll. It's going to be about how this stuff works to fit your business. And I haven't run into very many people in my career that approach this process as well as Katie does. And I think you'll appreciate the time. Now, I'm perfectly happy to make that referral.
Yeah.
Now, it may turn into business today, and it may be, a not now concept. But the relationship will be there.
Right.
The relationship we started with the decision maker, with somebody that can make something happen. But first I need to know all those parts and pieces, because it can't be just I'm a payroll guy and everybody needs payroll. And yes, I know that, but
Right.
it's got to be more than that.
And in today's day and age, I feel like people are getting very creative in the service package offerings that they can deploy to the market. So even if you talk about insurance, which I keep talking about because it's one of probably the most powerful partnerships I have, insurance is regulated in the small group arena. So whether you get it from you or me or someone down the street, it's the same price structure. So what makes you different? And, insurance groups can form, collective agreements where they group industries together, and then that is more bargaining power because there's a larger group and therefore rates can be adjusted and things like that. So when you spend time with these different industries and
You're
you
learning those
uncover what they're doing to differentiate themselves, you can then provide and extract a referral that probably someone else could not have because you now are knowledgeable outside of your space.
Yeah. Well, and I'll tell you another thing that's kind of neat. We're going to have a video out of this, right? And I can easily take this video and I say, hey, Brad, good friend of mine, Brad,
Yeah.
you need to watch this. You need to listen to Katie. I think you need to have a conversation with her. And so